May we have roll call, please?
Alderman Nealon.
Here.
Alderman Count.
Here.
Administrator Director is absent. Mayor Toby.
Here.
Attorney Boss.
Here.
Alderman Proctor.
Here.
And Alderman Clark. Here.
Everybody join in. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have the council report for October 29th, 2021 through November 10th, 2021. The Board of Alderman workshop minutes date November 1st, 2021. The Board of Alderman meeting minutes November 1st, 2021. The Board of Alderman executive session minutes dated November 1st, 2021. And the October 2021 collector's report.
I actually have a question on page 1 under non-departmental general fund miscellaneous. It looks like there's reimbursements for different addresses. Can somebody give me an indication what that's for? Looks like it went to residents or. Water. So that fund also, because normally they're in different, that's why I was. Okay. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed. Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Nealon.
Aye.
Alderman Count.
Aye.
Alderman Clark. Aye. Alderman Proctor. Aye.
The next item on the agenda is ordinances. Bill number 2021-29. An ordinance authorizing, directing the mayor to execute an addendum to employment agreement with the city administrator. Administrative director is not here, but Attorney Voss has drafted these. So I would like to see if Attorney Voss would care to explain this.
Yeah, I'd be glad to explain both of these ordinances, Mayor. Whenever Travis announced his resignation, his employment contract with the city required a 60-day notice, and he requested that the city look at maybe doing something different in that regard. And so you really take the two ordinances together, and about the same time he announced his resignation, the city reached out to Mr. Russell Ross, who's here this evening, who was willing to serve in a very, very short interim role. And once the board had a pretty good handle that that was going to be able to be negotiated, the ordinance was then proposed to allow Travis's contract to do away with the 60-day notice requirement, and of course the 60-day payment requirement, and end his employment on November the 26th, and then a provision that he be available by telephone call if needed for any administration officials to follow up on questions. He would be available by telephone that didn't interfere with his other job through December 23rd. He would just be paid on an hourly rate as we called him in the independent contract. So merely just amending his employment agreement to allow his last day to be November 26, 2021. Travis has reviewed this agreement. I told him he's certainly welcome to. I'm the attorney for the city. I did draft it, and I told Travis it was up to him if he wanted to have an attorney look at it. He said it was absolutely fine with this agreement and prepared for it to be presented this evening. Second ordinance, Mayor, is authorizing a contract for administrative services with Russell Ross, who had worked in this city for some time before retiring after a long tenure as city administrator with Union. And he has agreed to serve on a very short interim basis for up to 12 weeks as an independent contractor. He would not be an employee of the city, and this agreement is terminal by him, it's terminal by the city, has some termination provisions, but it absolutely expires in 12 weeks. It's a 12-week contract to allow the city to get through some things and maybe assist with the hiring of the new administrator. The amount of pay was set forth to be exactly the same pay that Mr. Ross was paid when he retired as city administrator in Union. And this agreement was prepared, Mr. Ross and his attorney prepared it, and I certainly reviewed it and presented it for ordinance approval this evening, and it has also been approved by him and his attorney. Any questions?
I do, I just seen it here. On the one where Administrator Gardner with the $60 per hour is an email or phone call, and that was authorized by Mr. Ross, I believe. So he's not, Mr. Gardner is not being overwhelmed by just anyone.
No, I think that would be appropriate.
You would only serve to provide the historical information that might need to do the job.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience have any questions about this order?
I just have a comment, Mayor. I'm just thankful for Travis's service to the city. He's one of my friends. It's one of the reasons I come tonight. And I believe it was exemplary service to our town. And I'm very thankful for the board finding a way to make his departure as easy as possible. And I appreciate all of you for doing that. It's a loss to our city. It's a gain to Northwest School District, but he will definitely be missed. I appreciate the work that you guys did to make this possible for him smoothly. Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta approve them one at a time. They're both authorize you to sign each one of those two separate contracts.
I'd like to introduce bill number 2021-29 for first and second reading by title only.
Ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of St. Clair to execute an addendum to employment agreement with city administrator Travis Berger. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of St. Clair to execute an addendum to employment agreement with city administrator Travis Berger.
I move to approve bill number 2021-29 as read.
May I have roll call, please?
Alderman Crawford.
Aye.
Alderman Beeler.
Aye.
Alderman Count. Aye. Alderman Count.
Aye. Motion carries. Bill number 2021-29 becomes ordinance number 2046.
I would like to introduce bill number 2021-30 for first and second reading by title only.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of St. Clair to execute the administrative services agreement with Russell Ross to serve as interim city administrator. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of St. Clair to execute the administrative services agreement with Russell Ross to serve as interim city administrator.
Move to approve bill number 2021-30 as read.
Second.
May I have roll call, please?
Alderman Beeler.
Aye.
Alderman Count. Aye. Alderman Crawford.
Aye.
Alderman Count.
Aye. Motion carries. Bill number 2021-30 becomes ordinance number 2047. Next on the agenda is unfinished business. The budget meeting update. Will a third meeting be needed? If so, when? I think we discussed today to pretty much do it at the next meeting on November 6th. December, yes.
I don't think it needs to be a full meeting, but those items that came up today that I still need to address with Travis and city attorney Clark, it would be appropriate for me to report back and bring any amendments that might be needed with that.
We have the Main Street project update. The concrete is finished. We're awaiting MoDOT for approval for moving of the large piece of granite. The potential donor, we're still waiting to hear from as well. We're hearing they're still interested. And discussion regarding the upcoming parts of the project, which we're also waiting to hear from them as well. And there was a slight mishap with the budget of the Main Street project. And I think everybody's more disappointed than I am. A lot of lessons learned here. But in order to pay out, we have to have approval for another, just under 46,1983. When I came to the board before, I was under the assumption that our city crew were finishing the concrete, not just laying it. So that's where that came down to. I did not know that until the board was first scheduled. So that's where that cost came from.
I'm just curious, did Dogwood Contracting actually submit a written bid? I see this as an invoice, but was there a written bid? Because I didn't see it in the packet. Or was
There
there?
was verbal, which matched identically. He waived 2/3. He said he was going to waive 2/3, and we would fall in budget. So I'm assuming he thought the $5,000 project was for finishing only. The same would be in budget, would be in budget. And so that's where things went a little bit wrong.
I think we were under the assumption that he's donating most of it and then $5,000 of total cost.
That's where I was at the same place. I talked with our street department. They didn't say that they weren't finishing. So that's where, after we had the approval and everything, I didn't know until the concrete was scheduled to come. And that's the way it was. So I didn't know either until that did come.
We all messed up because we could have had bids on the project and seen everything right.
It's not unusual to see donations be made after the project started. Anything like that should be documented and recorded. But kind of like city one union, one time, you can't drive over 3/4 of the way across the desert and get off the street because it's not. You have to get the project finished, and then go to money.
Oh, you're looking at competition.
With the state, that's fine.
The same, I love it. But yeah, so like I said, there was a lot learned here, and obviously it's gonna be having to get on Monday.
I make a motion to approve the added expense for the Main Street project.
May I have a roll call, please?
Before you vote, that's for the 46,1983. The motion should reflect that. City clerk had that.
May I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Crawford? Aye. Alderman Count?
Nay.
Alderman Wheeler?
Aye.
Alderman Tyler? Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, and my apologies. Next on the agenda is the park supervisor position. There was a revised date of November 29th, which changed to today, November 15th. So the search and replacement is ongoing, and we have a few applications in, but we had a little bit of discussion about this earlier today. And where we're listing as park supervisor, we discussed maybe changing that title to park maintenance. Because of,
I think it more accurately reflects the duties, since they're not really supervising people. I agree.
yes, and I think it's gonna change the applications we get as well, because we're having, people with a lot of supervisory skills come in, which that pay is gonna look even further extended than where we're wanting to go, so if the board chooses, if we could change that to like park maintenance is another suggestion, and just take it back out there again with that title, but I would also like to still see if some of these applicants would fill out our city application, and maybe we could still go ahead and speak to a few of these people, while we're in the process of.
Since we have such an immediate vacancy, would it be possible to maybe reach out to even some of the organizations that do a lot of community service to the school, maybe Boy Scouts or JROTC? I mean, really right now, the parks, the main thing that we need, the main need is just empty trash cans. So maybe would it be possible for somebody to do that and explore that option so that we can at least try to keep the trash cans emptied without putting more stress on, you know, our city staff and their hours? Something to think about.
Good, I mean, everybody has connections with those people, if you look at anything on social media. We did have a former Parks employee offered to come in at $12 an hour for as needed to do the trash and to show someone the ropes when we get them in. So that's also a possibility. It's a few hours a day, but I don't know if it's going to take that many hours. The parks aren't being used as much in the cooler weather. Well, this is just for just what's needed right now. With that being closed down, I think Alderman Sykes said it's just trash right now. So if you guys want to consider bringing someone in, if we can't find someone to volunteer to check trash cans.
I think my understanding was that they were only being emptied once or maybe twice a week in Florida got cooler in the past several weeks. And I think only 2 weeks to our next meeting, there's a holiday in there that probably will be even less use. I mean, personally, I would like to see us just look for some volunteers to fill that till we can get somebody in there, or at least until the next meeting. It gives us 2 weeks to see if we've got anybody, then we can look at maybe bringing somebody in. But with it being so quick, I'd just like to see maybe if we can just explore that option. It seems like there's always people looking for community service projects, and that's a pretty easy one. A couple of hours a week is all we need. Yeah, that was another idea. That was somebody else I thought. I mean, I've got contacts with Boy Scouts that have volunteered at city events and festivals. So, I mean, I can reach out to them and see. Somebody should have Sergeant Cohen's information for JROTC. Jamie has that.
I'm not sure. There was pointing going on, so I wasn't sure. I know Ms.
Or I
Miller.
could potentially ask tomorrow night or if you that, community service potentially maybe get, that would be a great support thing for them too.
That would be great. What does that mean? Well, we're gonna have to get them around with a vehicle, I guess.
Well,
Look at the logistics of that, see if there's a place that
we have a form that Myrna, is through the state of Missouri and that the circuit court uses, where they are not, it's not a liability to the city. It's an actual contract with them, for paying the funds and costs.
my concern in the logistics is how to get the trash and the cans to the dumpster where it's got to go.
Yes, I was gonna say, and then you also know how to contact the JROTC as well. Would you mind, since you have that contact through Veterans Day? And then Mercy Administrative, that is great.
I think that'd be a great option to look at it before we start paying somebody to do empty trash cans. If we can plug some people in that are always looking to get involved.
People who can alternate.
I mean, even if all of these organizations, if we can do 1 week with court and 1 week with JROTC and 1 week with the Boy Scouts, I mean, that buys us 3 weeks to find somebody as opposed to trying to get, you know, an employee in there for everybody.
Great. Is the board okay with changing the park supervisor to park maintenance?
Yes. You can have a motion.
I like these
right back out there.
Yeah, Travis wrote that up and posted it already. Think of our last.
I think everything looked good with that, it was just pretty much, I think it was pretty much the title, I don't know if we talked about.
Are we gonna talk about salary? Or that?
That would be something I think would be appropriate for that.
Yes, because I think it's listed as 15, but there's been some wiggle room there.
I think it's been revised in his memo today, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
Today, the form out there.
The next item is the city administrator position. I think we all have the job description here that the administrator director put together. The process of getting this posted and advertised with Missouri and Indeed and the MML. Mr. Ross, have you been able to look over that? Okay.
I read the ad. That's okay. We'll leave it.
Okay. We think this looks good. Out there.
The only thing that I noticed in there is that it says that applications due by December 10th. I think maybe we should consider pushing that out to December 17th. That gives 3 full weeks after Thanksgiving. By the time Travis and Russell get connected next week and they get it out, I mean, if we do the 10th, that's only 2 weeks after the holiday. I think we might get a better response if we give a little bit more time. I know it's an extra week, but there's a holiday in there.
I think it's
And it's
great.
not even posted yet.
I think it's great to run an extra week, but I mean, if we have qualified people that we think are potential, we could start doing some interviews
Right.
before the ads even finish running.
This says not that. Holiday weekend there.
And then, next on the agenda is the chief of police salary. We need to determine the salary for chief of police for the next 4 years. And then by the next meeting, that ordinance can be for the December 6th meeting. We can have that drafted and ready to go.
For the audience, this was discussed in the workshop today, and I made a recommendation that we go ahead and set the salary now, and that with the understanding it's going to be included in that budget. Well, now it will have to be that amount. But you're all right with that. I talked to the city attorney, and he felt that that is appropriate. Better let people know that might have an interest as soon as possible instead of waiting for the budget time to do in the middle of filing, especially this year. We have a really short filing.
Make a motion per the recommendation, in the budget meetings to set the chief's salary for $82,000 annually over the next 4 years.
Second.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Alderman Lehman.
Aye.
Alderman Hack.
Aye.
Alderman Foster.
Aye.
Alderman Hunt. Aye.
Certainly, we need to complete a separate ordinance for that, or it's going to be incorporated in the budget.
I think it can just be incorporated into the budget. I mean, we're doing our part to tell the public before filing even opens of what the salary's gonna be. So we're certainly, we're doing it out in the public, it's doing it out in the open. I would think it's fine as long as it's set in the budget. I mean, you're welcome to do a separate, I mean, it's just belts and suspenders, for those of you that like was saying. So. Your call, Mary. You want an ordinance or not an ordinance? I'll let you and Russell figure out whether you're gonna do the police chief by an ordinance at the next one and in the budget or just in the budget.
The only reason I even consider it is because next budget meeting, because I don't expect to vote on that budget that night, so it's probably gonna be the 20th, unless it's special meeting.
Let's do an ordinance. I think Travis even told me he had an ordinance drafted.
Oh.
He plugged in. So just, let's do an ordinance on December 6th. Now, certainly before filing, everybody knows what it's gonna be, and I think the Alderman have already said how they're gonna vote on the identity ordinance, so. You'll get together with Travis on that, but I think he told me he was prepared. Got a blank.
And next on the agenda, we have new business, plan review and complex construction inspection contract, regarding Dan King. And we talked about this a little bit at the budget meeting today, and, Mr. Ross and Administrator Becker are gonna put their heads together and do some talking, and so we'll also have more information on that for the December 6th.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a brand review, and today was my first participation in discussion about this, so without Travis's input and running that by her, I think it would be, they were so that needs to be.
I think you guys just agreed to take it.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, I wasn't sure.
technically, you could have a motion.
Okay.
But I think everybody agreed it'll be on the agenda next month, or next meeting, because Kim will put it there.
Okay.
Right, Kim?
Uh,
Well, then it'll be under unfinished business, rather than new business, it's gonna move up one.
Attorney Moss. do you-
Nothing, Mayor.
Departmental reports. Mr. Ivey,
Nothing at this time.
everything goes smooth, the first one?
So far, yep.
Report,
Just what's in my report, Mayor.
planning and zoning, Alderman Beelan. None of other business. We've heard of a lot of things. I definitely, we have had volunteers, step up. And know that sidewalk extension costs a little bit more, but I want to thank God with construction, they're not here. And, Dave Heck, who's helped do a lot around town, and Carolyn and Charlie Sokovic donated 2 arborvitaes that found that we saw them in the flower pots, in the entryway to the gazebo, for putting those in, and multiple people that have stepped up. Everybody for the veterans that showed up for the veterans and helped participate in the veterans. I hope we grow that every year. They will get a newsletter and advertise a little better. So thank you everyone that came up and did that, participated, or donated in any which way, shape, or form. That was all I had.
I have a question from a citizen. I was curious because this lovely Missouri weather is very unpredictable. Leaf cleanup came very prior to most leaves falling. What all is involved with leaf cleanup, and would it be possible to consider doing another leaf pickup? Maybe beginning, maybe the week after Thanksgiving.
Well, leaves are starting tomorrow, I think. And we have a subcontractor that does that stuff, so we would have to get with
So
them and
once
see.
and done kind of thing.
That's typically the way it's been in the past, so. Not that he may not be open to doing it another week. But you gotta be careful when you get that first week of December, because if you get a little moisture and the temperatures get cold, then the leaves get frozen together and they don't pick up well. And
I think part of it is not the timing necessarily, but that threw some people off, but because the timing of the call it ended up end of October, so maybe next
we
year
did
just
push
try
it.
to
We
get
did push it
out.
back a week think it was a week. It was originally supposed to be last week, I think, but we did push it back a week because there were still a lot of leaves on the trees.
Right. I
at
mean,
that
I
point.
think we need to extend the call-in times. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just-
that we should.
Yeah.
The newsletter said the call-in ended the end of October. Well, a lot of people this year, I mean, we were still, things were half burning and we were enjoying warm temps. They weren't thinking about it. Just something to think of moving forward.
Yeah, we can, social media, advertise it, just a little bit more, because I have several calls myself. I'm assuming this happens probably every year.
So they're starting tomorrow?
Yes.
I'm assuming they're gonna extend it. I think it was supposed to start today. They're wound up starting tomorrow. I'm assuming it'll extend 3 days.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Ivy. I see here that you want the leaf over the tightening up there. You're buying that this time of the year because it's cheaper?
Yes. So they run specials in the wintertime to get in the spring. So they order it bulk from the manufacturer and then they send it to us, so it's cheaper to buy that way.
You get the total,
Right.
that's what it's total.
Yeah, 55 gallons, I think is what we do.
Anything else on here? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to bring anything up this evening to the board's attention? Please go to the next state, your name and address.
Address?
Name and address, please.
Okay. My name is Renelle Myers, and I'm with Licensed Shop Creek Services at 120 West Brentwood. The reason I was here this evening was it sounds like you guys were discussing the Main Street project. And we were just curious of when were the bids asked for and, but they approved, but obviously, I guess it sounds like it was a verbal agreement and there was no other bids. Because we've done several jobs for the city of St. Clair and we've not been over budget and we've always had our jobs approved. And so we were, whenever we've seen that someone else is doing it, we were kind of curious as to who took bids, did you see them, you know, just what, and if the other businesses were aware that the bidding was, had taken place.
No, it was verbal. I didn't know that I had to have multiple bids. I didn't even know that we had to finish it until last minute. And so I knew Gratcher Brothers did, and, Mr. Fuchs who did the Veterans Memorial out here, and like he said, he was waiving 2/3 the cost. I think that was where to go. And I was told we didn't have to go out to bid if it was under X amount of dollars. And so I will apologize and say, I was very new to this, I didn't know I was spearheading it, learned a lot of lessons here, so I now know that we have a lot more concrete people in town.
Yes, yes.
And so,
And
anytime we
we've
have a
done several,
project,
you know,
we
we've
will
done several projects.
most definitely get something out there, and my apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you for
This
coming up.
specific, the dollar amount of $16, like they said.
That's for bonding, I think it's 50 now, on public works bonding. I don't think, there's no federal money involved and no state money, I don't think we technically have to bid it. I always recommend you bid, or even get verbals, make a phone call, because it avoids any appearance of impropriety or anything, just like you're raising. And you save yourself so many issues when you get request bids, even if it's a small job as a telephone bid, it's better to ask, because that's always my advice. But there's no law that says they have to bid a $5,000 or $10,000 concrete, just like we want the bid going and buying a screwdriver or getting some chemicals for the yard. I mean, that's the cost of doing business, but best practice.
Well, yes, I know now going forward, like I said, lesson learned. It's good to know that, yes, we have multiple concrete places in town, which is good to know. Like I said, my apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's kind of more complicated when you have a donation situation that leads to the portion. Then it needs to some kind of written format.
they were submitted to the city, they're a public document, and I think they are.
It's my understanding that Chris talked to Bill Gratzer verbally, and that the mayor talked to Zach Hughes and got his pricing.
I talked to Zach and Mr. Gratzer, and I was told that Gratzer was supposed to be emailing that to Chris. This is all verbal, that it was supposed to be emailing to him. So
Okay.
whether he got that or not, I do not know.
Yeah.
But Gratzer Brothers talked to me and Chris himself.
Okay.
There was no donation on the first one. Anyone else to request? Our next scheduled meeting is Monday, December 6th, 2021 at 7 o'clock. If there's anything further.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone have a good evening.